Star Trek Into Darkness was a bastardization of one of the greatest Star Trek and science fiction films of all time, so when your expectations for a sequel is to simply be better than insultingly terrible, it's not hard for a movie to fulfill them. Does Star Trek Beyond finally capture the spirit of Star Trek, or is it just another generic action movie? Find out with Joe at the Movies. I'm not a fan of the Star Trek reboots. The first one spent too much time just trying to justify its own existence and referencing the true Star Trek, while the second one just flat out ripped it off and even ruined it. So it's nice to know that Beyond is going to start with something new. However, I think it speaks volumes to how well this movie thinks of Star Trek when the opening monologue is basically, "Space is boring, let's blow shit up." The movie takes place 3 years into the 5-year mission the original series was on, but the opening didn't do a good job of convincing me this movie would be better. It starts out with Kirk, a captain in Starfleet, an organization dedicated to reaching out to new life with diplomacy, botching a diplomatic mission. It's not as jarring as the opening to Into Darkness, but it's not a good way to start the movie. Even further when Kirk's opening captain's log is complaining about space. It's not a good sign when the characters of Star Trek hate trekking through stars. Fortunately, the movie doesn't continue this path. After that bad omen, the Enterprise docks with Yorktown, an installation that seems designed to match Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future, even if it did have that fake Hollywood sheen to it. After an admiral, who I'm certain played a Quarian in Mass Effect, gives Kirk a mission to go after a lost ship reported by one of its crew, the Enterprise then heads off to get destroyed for the second time alone in this trilogy. This time by Idris Elba as the villain Krall. While most of the crew is captured, it's up to Kirk and company to save them. The story is pretty straightforward from here. The villain plans an attack on Yorktown, which is typical, but at least they're not destroying Earth for the 1 millionth time. And it feels kinda short. But you know that awful first trailer that had Beastie Boys Sabotage in it? Well, that's actually in the movie, but despite making story sense, I still couldn't help but letting out an audible AAAAAH at the screen. Hearing Beastie Boys during the climax of a Star Trek movie sounds even more jarring than in the trailer, and just as stupid. One of the biggest flaws of the other two movies is that the characters were more like caricatures, exemplifying one aspect of the person coming across as one-dimensional, which was unfortunate as they had good actors, and Chris Pine, playing them. They do better in this one, feeling more natural, McCoy doesn't talk only in metaphors this time, etc. Idris Elba does a good job as the villain, though he has a mysteriously similar origin to John Harrison from Into Darkness, except the revelation doesn't ruin a beloved character. I figured out where they were going with it before they revealed it though. The movie made a decision to make Sulu gay, which I thought was dumb and misguided. It might seem like an attempt to finally represent the LGBT community in Star Trek and the future, but other than the short scene of him with a husband and child, it doesn't really come into play. I feel as though they weren't actually concerned with representation and just made one character gay to drum up goodwill, and obviously were trying to make a shout out to George Takei, which is why I'm glad he put them in their place. According to him, he'd rather they make a new character with a history of being gay, instead of messing with Roddenberry's original vision, and I agree with him. Considering that Takei is probably the expert on Sulu outside Roddenberry, they should have listened to him. Just another way it seems they don't have proper respect for Star Trek. Besides that, Sulu still gets about the same amount of screen time as last time, along with the rest of the cast, focusing instead too much on Chris Pine's Kirk. The beginning also made it seem as though they were finally stopping the completely forced and unnecessary romance between Spock and Aurora, only for them to continue this annoying relationship. The best parts of the movie, shockingly, is when they're not messing with the original and instead trying new things. Most notably in the alien warrior Jala, who nails the classic Star Trek look of being just humanoid enough to be played by an actor without excessive amounts of CGI, but still alien enough to be, well, alien, perfect for when you're running on a TV budget. Although her arc involves a fight with a henchman of Krall we only see once before the fight, it involves a climax that we can't personally invest in as we only know the basic premise, which is the overused "he killed my father" story beat. I like that they tried to have more alien main characters, which is nice. I hope Star Wars follows suit. The music, the one good thing from the other movies, is great as well. You know, when it's not literally being sabotaged. Despite being better than the other two movies, the best it manages to be is a shadow of what Star Trek is. The theme, according to the actors in interviews, is family, which is the same bullshit Into Darkness tried to pull. There's also the strength and unity theme that the villain exists to challenge. In a hard science fiction series that hit themes such as what is life, what are humans capable of, religion, and of course other philosophical ideas and social commentary on the world around us, unity, A theme used in child's toys like Bionicles is pretty lame. But what do you expect from a studio who ignored a Star Trek alumni's offer to direct to give to the Fast and the Furious guy? But it tries harder than the other two to reach its pedigree, and at least the script is written by hacks and 9/11 truthers. As a Star Trek fan, I'm still worried about the future of the series. I want to be excited for the new show, but the fact that one of the hacks I previously mentioned is still attached to it, not the 9/11 truther hack, just the plain old hack, and the fact that it's only on and used to promote CBS's All Access app instead of just the channel, gives me pause. I hope that they continue from the original timeline, not a reboot or a stupid prequel again. If Star Trek Beyond was the first movie instead of the third in the series, it would have been a lot better. If you're looking for a proper Star Trek, it's close but no cigar, yet still enjoyable, and if you're looking for something to see in theaters, it's worth the watch.